1. Where I work, many of my coworkers have visible tattoos, and it's never been an issue. Even some of the assistant managers and higher-ups have tattoos that can be seen while in uniform. For some reason, during the summer months, we are allowed to wear shorts if we want to do so. I get very warm during the summer and just don't handle the heat well, so I opt to wear shorts almost every day from May to August. I have a tattoo of a mermaid on the side of my lower leg. It's a typical American traditional mermaid, and she has breasts. The nipple of the mermaid is a black dot, simple and small, is not overly sexualized or drawn in a pornographic style. Plus, it's on the side of my lower leg, mixed in with my many other tattoos, and it doesn't stick out. For a few weeks, I had no issue with the tattoo. I even had one manager comment on my leg pieces, saying he liked the style. However, one day one of the assistant managers came up to me and told me my tattoo was all of a sudden inappropriate and out of line for work. She demanded I wear pants or completely cover the chest of the mermaid tattoo every day. I asked her if a customer had complained or if our manager had said something. She said no, that only she took offense to the tattoo and demanded I cover it. I asked a bunch of people, and they thought she was being ridiculous, but this particular manager had a history of steamrolling over everyone and getting her way. Even other assistant managers had issues with her in the past, so I decided, fine. If I have to cover the nipples of the mermaid, that's what I should do then. I went to several craft stores to find as many seashell-themed stickers as I could. I also brought some small gemstone stickers and thread. I used the gemstone and thread to make tiny breast tassels for the mermaid. They were super cute and drew lots of attention. I had co-workers and customers all commenting on how cute the tassels were and how creative it was to do that as a cover. The assistant manager that had forced me to cover the tattoo saw what I had done, and she wasn't pleased. She thought I would use band-aids or something to cover it instead. But I got her to admit that I was technically following her demand, as the mermaid nipples were no longer visible. The longer I had to keep the tattoo covered, the more creative I got with it. I used all sorts of fun, flashy stickers and designs. I even used googly eyes at one point. All my coworkers loved it, as they agreed it was unnecessary to demand me to cover the tattoo in the first place. Eventually, that assistant manager was fired, and when she left, I stopped covering the mermaid. I haven't had any issue with any other managers about it, so I think the issue is resolved, and at least I had some fun while it lasted. 2. I, 44 and male at the time, am a small business owner. I have a pickup and delivery laundry service in a big city. My bread and butter is commercial business, small salons, bars, restaurants. People like us because we don't require a lengthy contract. It's a sort of call us if you want to situation, and if you don't like us, don't call. It works both ways. We were pretty new to the business at the time, and we were super excited to get a 2 Michelin star restaurant's tablecloths and napkins. Didn't like Mamet, the jerk fiancé guy who always tried to negotiate us down, but we got along great with Althea. She was the logistics fixer and genius problem solver for the restaurant. Any high-end business should have someone like her on staff. We jumped through hoops like we'd never jumped through hoops before, even rented more space to handle their business. At $3,000 a month, they were our biggest customer. Thing is, Mamet already negotiated an amazing deal with us from the start, but he was in the nasty habit of trying to negotiate after the fact. Every time they owed us money, he would try to get us to take less. We told Althea this was not okay over and over again. Mamet was an owner, but he was just a money guy. The head chef and other owners actually cared about the business. Well, the back and forth went on for months. They always insisted on a discount. We never gave in, because we were already in deep discount territory with these people. And come on, $400 a plate, you can afford a $2 per tablecloth or whatever we charged them. Mamet eventually started really putting the screws to us, and was withholding about $1,700 money we really needed, while he tried to squeeze us to accept less. I think he thought we were probably living on the edge like most small business owners, but we were really just tired, sick and tired more than anything. And we checked our balance of Fs and, oh dear, there were none left to give. I came up with a plan and got my partner to agree. We put the plan in motion. We waited until the weekend came. We had almost all of these people's laundry. I think you can see where this is going. I called Althea and told her that Mammoth could stuff it. We have all your laundry. It's all pressed and ready. It's Monday. You're planning to open again on Tuesday. When you pay us in full for this order, and everything that you owe us for previous orders in cash, you'll get your laundry back, not before. I also let her know that once we got paid, our business relationship would be over. This was disastrous for us financially, but we weren't going to starve to death. She understood, and she was actually on our side. She loved our service. She let all the owners know that we were not messing around. She called us back, and we agreed on a time. I went to the restaurant, left my partner and the laundry in the van. I dealt with all sorts of criminals and scammers in the neighborhoods where we delivered. I knew how to treat deadbeats. Mammoth wasn't there. The chef, other owner, was there, and only because it was him and not Mammoth did I accept a business check instead of cash. It cashed, no problem. I called my partner to bring in the laundry. Althea called me later and proposed that we keep working with them and we would never have to speak to Mammoth again. Honestly, it was such a weight off my shoulders to no longer deal with him, I said, no way. Don't try to stiff a small business that stands between you and setting tables for $20,000 a month of seatings in your fancy restaurant when you have no plan B. I have no regrets. 3. Back in the early 2000s, I was collecting all my change in one of those big plastic water jugs for water dispensers. I had it about 60% full, and needed to cash them in to make ends meet. So I lugged this thing to my local bank. Now I learned the hard way prior to this that the bank would not accept pre-rolled coins. They told me there was no way to verify that the rolls contained actual coins, and they would have to rip every one of them open to verify. After the explanation, it made sense. But it was kind of frustrating, since I spent the money and time to roll these coins up thinking I was helping them out. So this time I kept them all loose in the jug. I also know that they have one of those coin counting machines because I saw them in use the last time, and it made light work of all the coins they had unwrapped from the rolls. But it's been a few years since I last did this, so here I was waiting in line for the next available teller with my jug of loose change, probably weighing 40 to 50 pounds worth. When my time came, I waddled my jug up to the base of the teller desk and told them I wanted to cash it in. This is when they told me that they charged something like a 10% fee to count the change. I turned my head to the right, where there was a small room, and sure enough, that same coin-counting machine is still there. I said, "You aren't counting it. You're just pouring it into that machine, and it'll count it for you." They simply replied, "It's just policy, sir." I then said, "You're my bank. Isn't that a service you're supposed to provide to me?" And they said, "We charge the same rate for everyone." So I asked how much change they would take without charging me the fee, and they said $50. So I knelt down, tipped the jug over, and poured as much of it into my hand as possible, and put a couple of handfuls worth onto the counter. Looking perturbed, she counted it all by hand and gave me maybe $22 and some change. I put it into my wallet, grabbed my jug, and dragged it to the back of the line behind the two other customers. When it was my turn again, I waddled up there, knelt down, and placed a couple of handfuls of coins on the high counter. When I stood back, you could tell she was pretty perturbed about what I was doing and eventually just gave in. She told me to bring the jug over to the swinging door at the end of the desk, and with the help of another teller, they started pouring it into the coin machine. I made a point to tell them that I knew almost to the cent how much was in there, so don't try to pull any fast ones on me. About 10 minutes later, it had chewed through all the coins, and the total came to within a few bucks of my own count. Might have had a handful of Canadian coins in there, or some likely miscount due to worn coins. I remember it ended up being over $1,000 in pocket change, but I can't recall the actual total. But That was the last time I saved coins. Nowadays, I hear most banks won't do this at all, and will just refer you to these coin-counting machines you see at hardware stores or Walmart that rob you of a large percentage of the total. Hellfreezer's note, what you do to get around that is you make a deposit with your coins. You may have to do it in a few trips, as it might let you only do a certain number per day, but that's a way to get around the coin-counting machines taking a percentage. I don't actually have a local bank anymore, so I do have to use those coin-counting machines, which reminds me, I haven't cashed in my bag of change for a while. Wonder how much is in it. 4. A few years ago, I worked at a mid-sized company where the atmosphere was, let's say, not ideal. The manager had this ever-growing suspicion that people were just waiting for the right time to leave. He believed that morale was low and that the team was barely holding it together. And while I'm not sure where he got this idea, he started imposing more and more controls on us to monitor productivity. One day, he introduced a new rule.
Every task, every email, every conversation must be logged. No exceptions.
The justification,
I need to know exactly what you're doing, and I need to be sure nothing's falling through the cracks.
Now, here's the problem. My team was already working at full capacity, dealing with multiple tasks every day. But suddenly, we were being told to log everything. If you were sending a simple email, you had to log it. Writing a report, log it. Setting up a meeting, log it. Every little action had to be documented. I tried explaining how ridiculous this was, but the response was always the same.
I need to make sure you're on task.
He didn't trust us to do our jobs, so he created a system where every move had to be tracked and validated by someone else. I didn't see any way out of it, so I decided to comply. But I wasn't going to make it easy. I started logging everything. And I mean everything, down to the smallest tasks. Simple emails, logged. A quick 10-minute meeting to touch base, logged. I even started logging the amount of time I spent thinking about the best way to word my emails, because hey, it was part of the task, right? To top it off, I made sure my logs were detailed as hell. I meticulously logged every action, no matter how insignificant. The result? It was chaos. The logs were piling up, but all they did was waste more of my time. The manager was reviewing everything and asking questions about tasks that had no bearing on the big picture. Meanwhile, I could barely get through a day without constantly being interrupted by the need to document my every move. And then it happened. The manager finally asked,
Why is everything taking so long?
I gave him a simple reply. You asked for everything to be logged. He didn't like hearing that. But the best part was when he finally realized that the whole system was making us less productive, his solution. We were told to
just log what's necessary.
The policy was quietly dropped, and things slowly started to return to normal, but by then, I had already built something of my own. After all the frustration of logging every single action, I realized there had to be a better way, so I started building a tool that could automatically track everything, without the annoying back and forth or wasted time. I wasn't looking to change the whole company, I just wanted to do my job without all the micromanagement. What started as a workaround eventually grew into a full-fledged solution, and I realized that this frustration had pushed me to create something far more effective than the system we were using. Funny how the lack of trust sometimes sparks the most innovative ideas. I now have a little side business called Business Log. 5. I used to work in media intelligence, which is a really niche market in the country that I am from. I started as an assistant and learned everything from scratch as I switched from the hospitality industry. Pretty big step, I know. I was eager to learn and was really interested in what they do, as I was trying to get into media back then. First of all, I learned everything from scratch. I got really good at what I do just after 6 months working there. I was in a 3-person team, and I had one of the best bosses and a really good colleague who were veterans in the industry. Both of them helped me learn a lot and got me to where I was. They left the company after just a year there as upper management was just plain hot garbage. The company had 4 changes in direction within a year, and it was stressing my team out. They did ask me to leave with them, but me being young and naive and trying to prove myself, I declined. This story. After my boss and colleague left, it was just me and my team, and I was in charge of a few markets. I was asked to be on call for technical support and was not offered anything in return. At the time I was annoyed, but also trying to prove myself, so I obliged. Got really stressed out from working 13 hours a day for a few months at that point. And I kept asking my manager to hire more people as I can't be working like this and it's stressing me out. My manager went on to say they don't have the budget for it, so I just forgot about it, drowning myself in work. One day the CEO of the company came and we had dinner as he was growing close to me, since I was the only one person left who actually knew the ins and outs of the old and new system that the company used. Keep in mind, this CEO is a cheapskate and will try any and all ways to suck you dry. He asked me what I wanted to change in the company during dinner. So, I started off with asking him for 2 new hires for my team, where he gave me the same answer as my manager, so I asked him for a promotion and a raise, which was also declined, saying, "You don't have the necessary experience yet." I was very angry. As a normal person would expect, after working 13-hour days for months, you would need a rest. I had almost 3 weeks of PTO saved and I needed the rest. The manager threatened to fire me if I took any PTO, as no one was able to do what I did. I took the PTO anyways. I got well rested and all was good until I came back. There were 2 new faces, and I was pretty confused, so I asked my manager who they were, and she told me they were my replacements. She told me my notice was 2 months and I had to train them before I leave. She couldn't do anything as I was the only one in the company who knew how to run the legacy and the new system, so realistically, she couldn't say that I was not training them properly, as she didn't know how things worked. Here is the part where the malicious compliance happens. Since the manager did not know how things worked, she told me to train the interns on the legacy systems to know better on how the company was built, and I did just that. She told me strictly to just train the interns on the legacy, and that she will deal with the rest. Sure, I'll do just that. It was until my last week when it really hit the fan. My manager found out that I have only been giving training on the legacy system, and I didn't give them any notes with tips on how to run the system that needed to be used for daily operations. My manager called in the CEO and the managing director to hold a meeting with me, asking why I hadn't trained my replacements properly. I just told them I did what my manager told me, which of course they denied until I forwarded the CEO and MD the email that my manager has sent me, which caused the call to promptly end. After I left the company, I was patiently waiting for the call that was bound to come. It was my manager. She demanded me to get back to work, and said that firing was just a prank. Ha 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 ha. Jokes. I told them, pay me triple my wage and I'll consider it. They called me crazy and ended the call. It's been 2 months since that call, and based on a good friend from another department, the old manager is neck deep in it now. Hey everybody, Hellfreezer here, and thank you very much for listening to Revenge's Ice Cream 400. Didn't even see that one coming. And thank you very much to everyone who allowed me to use their stories in this video and all the preceding 400. Okay, let's see. I don't think we have any other business today, so... oh yes, if you'd like to support the channel, then you can do that by supporting me on my Patreon page, linked in the description. You can also make donations during videos like this one by clicking on the heart with the $sign. And we have a merchandise store, which is linked for you in the description. Okay. Now let's move along to Hellfreezer's question of the day. And today's question is... Let's say, for example, some point in the future, next 10, 20 years, whatever, they're outlawing personal vehicles. Unless it's self-driving because they believe, whether it does or not, they improve traffic flow. Or the other option is you live in a world where all cars are gone and everyone has to use public transport. Which would you choose? Personally, I'd rather have the self-driving vehicles, but I think you all know I'm a big fan of that sort of thing. Plus, it's been a while since I've been on public transport, but I don't recall enjoying the experience. There's all sorts of weird people on there. There's no need to add to it by putting me on it. Let me know what you think in a comment below. Before we go, let's take a look at the answer of the day from a previous video. And today's answer comes from Revenge's Ice Cream 399. And this was about things you do that you know are bad, but you do them anyway because you just don't care. And today's answer comes from Annie Northman. Procrastinating by putting off things I know won't take me long to do, but I always put it off for the next few days. Also having energy drinks. Well, thank you for your answer, Annie. But I must disagree, energy drinks are obviously not bad for you. I mean, wherever did you get such a notion? No. La. Energy drinks are perfectly fine and totally healthy. Yada, yada, yada. I am not a doctor. And with that, I'm going to head off for now. So until next time, thank you very much for listening, and take very good care of yourselves. Gonna go open an energy drink.